Let's have a look at these three scenarios, or two scenarios, and these three different equations. Our two scenarios say there are four students in each group. How many groups are made if there are 28 students in the class? Or there are four groups. How many students are in each group if there are 28 students in the class? So both of these questions are saying, and then you can think about, oh, well, both of these scenarios kind of sound exactly the same, and maybe mathematically you would do exactly um, the same operation. And so I want you to think in your head maybe what that is, and maybe you already have an idea. Um, but I want to first connect it to, and maybe it wasn't multiplication here, right? And that's okay. And so this is part of what I want you to see is this intricate relationship or intimate relationship between multiplication and division. And it's not a coincidence. It's exactly how these two operations were either created or discovered or invented, whichever verb you'd like to put in there, because of this inverse relationship. To undo multiplication, you divide. And so that's why they're so similar, or seeming sound so similar. Or when you read these scenarios, you're maybe thinking division, even though there's a multiplication problem here. And it's exactly the same with addition and subtraction. And this is part of the reason why we want to kind of introduce these operations at the same time. But let's think about, go back in your head last week for what did it mean to multiply. We had this idea of blank groups of blank. And so if we're thinking of this is our groups then, and this is right, how many are in each group. And we know that you don't literally have to um, because of the commutative property, right? It can be in either order, right? It could be 3 times, or in this case, we'll use 7 and 4 since those are our numbers here, right? 7 times 4 or 4 times 7, they're both going to give you that product of 28. But when we're thinking about it in terms of now questions like this, paying attention to those things that we never paid attention to before is actually really important to help us understand not only multiplication, but what we're talking about this week, which is division. And that's why it's really important. So if we think about this as blank groups, right, our blank is in the groups. So the question is, right, how many groups? Right? We don't know. This is our blank. This is our question mark. We know, right, we know that there are four, red and green, right? No, there are four in each group, according to this, right, according to this equation. So here's my cursor, right? So which of these now scenarios matches this, right, with the blank? How many groups, right, is the question. And if you look, there are four students in each group. Oh, four students in each group, right? How many groups are made? So in this case, I know many people wanted to say either or both work, but technically, if we're thinking about this multiplication as blank groups of blank, right? Blank groups of blank. If this is how we're reading our multiplication, then this should say 7 groups of 4 is 28. So this is where we're in this first scenario. Now I'll clear those annotations and now check out, what about now this one? What do you think here? Again, we have the same idea. Here's our groups. Here's our groups of, and then how many is in each group. So now go ahead, answer it. You can answer it in your head. You can answer it out loud. Right. So now the question is, and maybe I'll put this in blue, right? How many students are in each group, right? Right here, right? How many in each group if we know, right? If we have, how many groups do we have? Yeah, right? 4 groups. We have these 4 groups here. And so this one is now this scenario. And I know you might have wanted to put this, or maybe maybe you just took a guess, and that's all allowed. That's why we're kind of recapping here. All right. So now let's think about it. Check this one out. 28 divided by 4. And so what I want you to see here is that this, when it's division, either of these work. And that's how it gives us these two meanings or interpretations of division. We're asking, right? Or sorry, and that's a kind of a weird, I don't know why I drew that there, right? This is telling us, right, our two interpretations of division. We don't know how many groups or how many in each group. And we get these there. So, with addition, there was multiple ways to think about it. Subtraction, taking away, or the difference, the distance between numbers. Skip counting could be multiplication or repeated addition, right? Each of these operations has more than one way of thinking about it. And with division, we have exactly 2 ways. And they come from this idea of, I'll clear that for a second, of here, right? Because in multiplication, we can think about it as how many group, or, the number of groups, and then how many is in each group. And that's how, when we do our division, we get these two interpretations or 2 meanings of division. There's 2 ways to think about this quotient. And that's where you see, right? And maybe you thought about when you read both of these scenarios as both of them are division, and they are. And these are the 2 ways we can think about division.